Welcome to the Program for Organizational Growth, Resilience, and Sustainability, also known as the PROGRES program. You are watching the User's Guide instructional video. This video will provide you with an overview of the PROGRES assessment tool and step-by-step instructions on how to administer the tool at your organization. Before we begin, please make sure you read the User's Guide prior to watching this video. The User's Guide will provide you with more detailed information on the history, purpose, audience, and implementation of the program. Let's begin. PROGRES is an Excel-based tool that requires only a minimal amount of data input for it to generate graphs and charts depicting your organization's sustainability. The tool contains multiple tabs, all of which are linked to the overall dashboard tab, which populates the results of the assessment. The first tab in the tool is the Introduction tab. This tab provides you with a short overview of the tool, a list of the core and optional domains your organization can assess, the assessment process, and scoring criteria. As mentioned in the User's Guide, it is imperative that an organization complete the assessment for all the core domains. If applicable, an organization can add any of the optional domains to the assessment process. At this point in the assessment process, you should have a team of co-facilitators from various key departments within your organization that will lead the assessment of their corresponding domains. Each tab in the assessment tool contains the assessment information for each domain. Let's click on the Governance and Leadership Domain tab as an example. As you can see, the Governance and Leadership Domain tab is made up of 4 subdomains. Each subdomain has ideal practices an organization should be implementing. Next to each ideal practice is a key question facilitators can use to generate discussion within their assessment groups. Based on evidence, the teams then go through the criteria for each stage to determine what scoring they would give their organization for that particular ideal practice. The tool also offers examples of evidence teams should use to determine what stage their organization falls within for that ideal practice. To input your scoring, you simply click the down arrow on the consensus score cell and select the stage your team agreed upon. Next, in the comments section, you should provide detailed notes on why the team selected that score. The information is critical for the consensus building workshop at the end of the assessment process. You may have other colleagues outside the assessment team who will question the score your team provided for that ideal practice. The notes will provide you with the rationale for why the team selected this score. You should share this information with those colleagues during the final workshop. Now let's put fictitious numbers in the rest of the ideal practices to see what happens next. Once you've completed the assessment for the domain, you will notice that all the overall subcategory scores and overall category score will calculate automatically. Now remember, the spreadsheet will always round your scores down, as you cannot fall in between stages. For example, you will either fall in a stage 1 or 2, but you cannot be a 1.5, as you must meet all the criteria in each stage to progress to the next stage. If your score is rounded down, don't let that discourage you. It simply means that your organization needs to make some small changes to certain processes and/or procedures. These changes often take little time and resources and can quickly allow your organization to progress to the next stage. Lastly, you will note that the graph to the right automatically populates. These graphs will be helpful when you present the overall scores of each domain to the rest of your colleagues in the consensus building workshop. Let's take a look at a completed assessment tool so you can see how the dashboard tabs populate. In the tool, there are 2 dashboard category tabs, an overall category score tab and a category score tab, and 1 sustainability tab. The overall dashboard category tab provides you with the table of all the domains and the overall category score for each domain, a graph depicting the overall category scores table, the organizational capacity score, and finally, the institutional, programmatic, and financial sustainability scores for the organization. If you're wondering how the institutional, programmatic, and financial sustainability scores are calculated, Simply click on the Sustainability Factors tab. You will see that each subdomain is categorized as either institutional, programmatic, or financial. Based on this chart, the Excel tool averages the scores of the subdomains that fall under each category. If you would like to change these, you can do so by simply moving the X from one category to the next. The tool will then recalculate the scores automatically. Lastly, if you click on the Dashboard Category Scores tab, you will get a giant table of all the scores of the subdomains and corresponding graph depicting those scores. These tables and graphs can easily be copied and pasted into a PowerPoint presentation for either the consensus building workshop or any other meeting you may have within your organization. Finally, once you've completed the assessment process and consensus workshop, the assessment team should identify priority domains and subdomains to improve over a 6-month to 1-year time period. To that end, the PROGRES tool includes an action plan template teams can use to complete this step. As you can see, the action plan template includes a column with the domain the organizations would like to improve, the gap that was identified, the proposed actions and activities to be implemented to address the gap, the deliverable or output of that activity, the resources required to complete the activity, the person responsible for implementing the activity, and the timeline of when the activity will take place. The last column is the status and notes section, which allows teams to keep track of the status of each activity. Let's complete one example of how this template should be completed. Say your assessment results showed your resource mobilization domain came out relatively low compared to other domains. During the consensus workshop, your organization decides this is a priority domain that should be addressed in the action plan. Specifically, your organization currently does not have a resource mobilization strategy. So in the first column of your action plan template, you would write resource mobilization as your domain and resource mobilization strategy as your subdomain. The gap is that your organization currently does not have a resource mobilization strategy. The proposed action would be to develop a resource mobilization strategy. The deliverable would be a completed resource mobilization plan and strategy for implementation. The resources required would possibly include hiring a resource mobilization lead if you don't already have one, and or staff time to develop a resource mobilization strategy. The persons responsible for this activity may be the director and some technical staff. You can use the first letter of their first name and last name to identify who exactly is responsible for the activity. Then you can place an X under the months and weeks when this activity will take place. After the action plan is completed, we recommend that a finance manager from your organization use the inputs from the resources column to create a budget for your action plan template. With that information, you can see if it is feasible to complete your entire action plan. If not, you may have to narrow down the number of activities you intend to complete. Lastly, throughout the 6-month to 1-year time period, you should periodically meet with your team to monitor the progress of each activity. This is when the status and notes column comes into play. During each meeting, you can update the status of each activity. The wonderful feature about the PROGRES program is that you can go through this entire assessment process as a baseline. After you complete your 6-month to 1-year action plan, you can complete another assessment process as your end line and have qualitative and quantitative data showing how your organization's capacity has improved over time. We hope you found this instructional video helpful. We've had the pleasure of implementing this program with various organizations and are looking forward to more experiences. Our goal is to help your organization progress toward organizational sustainability. If you have any questions regarding this program or need support implementing this assessment, please feel free to contact us at any time. Thank you and good luck!